trauma nurse at Massachusetts General Hospital who says they were working at the race's medical tent. They've set up a morgue area at the back of the tent, and reports of people coming in with severed limbs, children with severe burns, and according to this one report, although we haven't had any official reports yet, many casualties. So far, the Mass General is confirming only that they've received 2 casualties right now, but that is the first report like that we have seen from a nurse who was on the scene working the race's medical tent. Some very severe injuries and many injuries, and perhaps worse.
It is just a tragedy and crushing to hear about these injuries. I want to thank you very much, Hayden, and I want to turn now to another eyewitness, Danielle Schneider, who is joining us right now, if you're on the phone. Not yet? Not yet. So, Hayden, are you still there? Can I go back for a second?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Give us a sense of the density, the crush of people. How many people were gathered around you?
Pretty close to the lines. There's probably like 5 or 6 people standing in like 2 square yards. Like everyone's really crushed together. It was pretty packed in.
And how
you had to really push your way through.
How soon did the help get there? How soon did the emergency medical teams arrive?
I would say about 5-10 minutes. It took a while for the ambulances and stuff to get in, but I saw several police officers sprinting toward the scene right after it happened.
Sprinting toward the scene, as they do.
Hayden, by any chance, did you see anyone sprinting away from the scene? Anything like that at all?
Yeah, there was a big crowd of people that were telling us to just keep running and run as far away as we could.
Execution of Assistant District Attorney Mark Hassett.
Now I believe we have Danielle Schneider on the phone, and if you can hear me, Ms. Schneider?
Yes, this is Danielle.
Tell me where you were. Were you running? Were you an observer? And what did you see?
I'm a runner. I finished probably about 15 minutes before. I had just got into Stephanie's on Newberry. We were about to sit down to eat, and all of a sudden we heard a huge explosion go off, and we all just kind of dropped to the ground. And then we were in a panic mode. Like we knew it was like a bomb, or we had no idea. We kind of were in a panic mode. And then all of a sudden we heard the second bomb go off, and then we just kind of all went into the corner of the restaurant. We saw people running everywhere. We waited a few minutes, and because I live in the city, I knew we had to get out of the area because we were so close to the finish line. And as we were running away towards the river, away from the epicenter, we saw people down on the ground. My boyfriend saw somebody with a limb off, cut into their legs. It was very gruesome.
And did you see people rushing to help them?
Yes, I mean, I've never seen it. I've run marathons. This is my 18th, and I've never seen anything like this where it was a triage, like ambulances. I mean, I live in the city. This was like the scariest thing I've ever experienced. Ambulances, undercover cops telling you to get out of the area. The restaurant, people working at the restaurant telling us to get away from the scene, get as far away. People were walking over the Mass Ave Bridge like it was an exodus to Cambridge.
We know this must have been harrowing for you and everyone around you, and we are looking at the pictures of those who are leaving the scene and can only imagine the heartbreak in all directions for the people there.
I mean, I live in the city, and it's just, my heart is dropped right now. I know tons of people running. I have friends in the area who are concerned because I was so close. I mean, I've been to other foreign countries where people are afraid bombs go off, and I live in the city, and it's just the worst feeling after running the marathon and being so excited with my time and just hearing those bombs, and my heart just dropped.
We are getting more reports from law enforcement officials and other sources on the scene. They locate the first blast at the Marathon Sports running store. It was not clear whether it was inside or outside the store, but it blew out windows in about 4 buildings in the area. 15 to 20 people injured, according to these sources, and they are reiterating what we've just heard from Danielle and other witnesses. Several seriously injured, severed body parts, and they also note that air quality officials have been brought into the area to test to make sure that this was not a chemical attack.
But again, it's not clear if it was inside that
or outside the store.
Or outside that store. And as we said earlier, they're also checking every garbage can, every manhole right now to make sure there's nothing else out there. Danielle, all the people you were with and all the people you know who were running are okay? I just want to make sure.
As of now, everybody I know is okay. I mean, I know people that work at Marathon Sports. I ran with a group of people last week. Like, I just hope everybody, I know people working in the medical tent. I just hope everybody's okay. Friends from afar are calling me as I'm on the phone with you guys, just making sure that I'm okay. It's just a very scary situation in the city right now.
It is, and thank you for helping us out. Thank you so much for phoning in to us, and we'll be checking.
And I just hope everybody's okay.
So do we all.
Let's go back to Pierre Thomas now. Pierre, we just got that report that they would be checking for possible chemicals on the scene. What kind of tests would those be?
Well, one of the things they can begin to do when they get a sense of the chemicals, that would tell them if it was a device, what type of device it might be. I've just been told that the Attorney General is in communication with the FBI Director to get additional information for release to the public later today as well. Again, the key in terms of swabbing the situation and looking for chemical residues, they have a bank of information about the types of devices that could be at play. Again, no one is officially calling these bombs yet until they can get there and get more information. But there's a protocol that they use where they, again, do the initial swab, field test, if you will, that, again, helps them to begin to assess if it was a device, who might be behind it, the level of sophistication that would be needed. Again, that's the beginning stage of an investigation like this.
Thanks, Pierre. I just want to run through again what we know the most concretely right now, George, if we can, because, again, as you've been saying, there are some sources who say it was inside or outside the Marathon Sports running store. We've heard from another eyewitness it may have been near a car.
Right, and these happened just before 3 p.m., about 2:50 p.m., right by the finish line of the Boston Marathon. 26,000 runners, 500,000 spectators on Patriots Day in Boston today. You see it right there. The winners had crossed the finish line about 3 hours before. 2 explosions, setting off white smoke up to 20 feet in the air. Approximately, we've had various reports, 5 to 15 seconds apart. One right in front of a sporting goods store right by the finish line there, blew out windows, 4 store windows right in that area. The Fairmount Hotel right by the finish line immediately went into lockdown. Emergency officials, police, and fire on the scene rushed in. Reports right now of severe injuries, Diane, near that finish line.
That's right. We don't know how many, and there are so many hospitals in this region. We assume that they may have been taken to several different hospitals, 15 to 20 people by one count, but there have been other counts as well. And again, I want to point out how quickly emergency medical teams arrived on the scene. It's very moving to hear the eyewitness account of when everyone is running away. The police are running in. They are running right into the danger zone. I want to bring in John Karl once again, our White House correspondent John Karl at the White House right now. John?
Diana, a senior administration official says the president has been notified on what has happened. He has directed his administration to provide whatever assistance the White House and his administration can provide, both in terms of the response to this explosion and to the next phase, the investigation into what happened. We're told that the officials here, senior officials, have been in touch with senior state and local officials up in Boston.
Once again, it's the Boston Marathon, the nation's oldest, 117 years, 26,839 people running, so many more watching.
Being run this year in honor of the victims of Newtown, as we said. 26 stars on the flag by the finish line for the 26 victims of Newtown, and now many other casualties on the scene in Boston today. Massachusetts General so far has only confirmed two casualties on the scene, but we've had many eyewitness reports of people taken away with severe injuries from the scene, including severed limbs.
I am struck by the accounts that we have, even as people were running, even as people were startled, even as people were terrified. We have not had any reports of pushing down other people or of the kind of panicky addition to a tragedy sometimes you have when people pile on top of each other and others get stuck.
We just got a tweet from Tag Romney, the son of Mitt Romney, of course, the Republican presidential candidate last year, who was near the scene, left Fenway in a cab, according to Tag, a few minutes before the explosion. The marathon today, what a big day this was in Boston today. Patriots Day, you had the marathon, you had the Red Sox playing this afternoon as well. So a lot of people concentrated in Boston today. What appears to have been a lovely spring day up until around 2:50 p.m. when those two explosions went off near the finish line of the Boston Marathon.
And once more, they have evacuated people from the immediate region. They're telling people to avoid manholes, garbage can. They are testing the air, George, as you said, to make sure there are no chemicals in the air that are going to add to any injuries. We have also heard reports of burns, severe burns. And we did see, when you see the explosion go up, if we can put that up once again, Mark Burstein, if we can put that up, because you can see that fireball. There you see it at the base of one of the explosions.
And this is the area, as we said, this is the area where family members, loved ones, friends all come to see their runners, 26,000 strong today, coming to cross that finish line, a place of great celebration. Whoever set this off was doing it designed to, to hit at the moment where it could do the maximum amount of damage.
I want to check in again and see if Martha Raddatz is still online with us here. Martha has been on the phones as well and talking to everyone at Homeland Security, Defense. Martha, are you there?
Diane, yes. One thing we are monitoring is the Boston Police and Fire and emergency scanners, and their bomb scares coming in all over the place. I think right now, probably up and down this route in this area, everything someone sees is suspicious. They've got lots of dogs out now looking for any suspicious devices. They've got their explosives teams, I'm told, scrambling to this area. And again, you see those National Guardsmen in the area ripping down some fences to try to get to some victims. You can see them going through this crowd in any way they can, and I'm sure you'll see more of them in the coming hours. Diane?
Yes, interesting, and I'll throw this to Martha as well as Pierre. As we're watching it, all these cars that are still parked along this route, I assume that each one of them has to be monitored, and each one of them is a source of suspicion at this point to police. They don't move them, but they're going car to car, we think, Martha, Pierre?
Yeah, look at that area, Diane. You can just see the enormous amount of people, of vehicles, everything around that area. They want to go through everything they possibly can, but they're going to go to whatever is suspicious right away. Plus, you've got this system overwhelmed. You've got cell phones overwhelmed. You've got the emergency system overwhelmed. They're obviously tending to the victims first, but right now they really want to find out if there are any more devices around there.
And I want to bring in Karen just a second, Pierre. We'll get right back to you, but Karen Willardson was also there, a runner. She is running from Salt Lake, I believe, and she saw those explosions as well. Karen, can you hear me?
I can.
Tell me what you saw.
You know, I was about less than a tenth of a mile from the finish line, and the explosion went off right by the finish line. Just the boom, you felt it, it hurt your ears, and a big black plume of smoke came out from it. And I stopped thinking this can't be right, and kind of backed up and looked around, and the second bomb went off, or the second explosion went off, just behind me. It seemed to be, the first one seemed to be big enough to shoot out the glass of the storefront. The second one seemed to be closer to the road, like maybe in a mailbox or in a garbage can. And people started pulling victims away that were injured, trying to drag them away from it and jump the railings that line the marathon path.
Karen, could you get any sense, this is George Stephanopoulos, of how serious those injuries might be?
You know, I saw a handful of people that had, I mean, it looked severe to me, but their limbs, their legs were dragging. People were trying to drag people, and their legs weren't connected well, or even some of them had been blown off, like their feet.
I want to interrupt you for just a second, as we are getting reports now of another explosion in Boston, but this was from the people who are monitoring the police scanners report that this is a police-controlled explosion near Ground Zero. So anyone who might have heard of another explosion, that is a police-controlled explosion near Ground Zero. We don't know what they were exploding, but we do know it happened just moments ago.
And by Ground Zero, you
near the finish line.
The site of this finish line. Yes, we don't know if they found another device, an unexploded device, or something completely different. Again, we want to be very, very cautious at this point. Karen, around you, if I could just ask, tell me what people were saying and doing. How quick was their reaction? Which direction did they go?
You know, everyone was they were kind of screaming and actually running towards the center of the road because it seemed more dangerous to be close to buildings. You know, the roads were clear, and so we felt maybe we would be safer there. It was quickly that the police got there and started kind of pushing everyone away from that main race street, the finish line area, and tried to push us away. And then, you know, sadly, everybody kind of wandered, not knowing what to do or where to go.
Well, again, we thank you for checking in with us. We are glad you are all right, and we know that this is a haunting nightmare for everyone who was there. We thank you again so much. And Pierre, I wanted to go back to you for a second because